So Brad ended on this point about how we all need to be honest about our current mindsets, how we need to cultivate an expanded sense of agency, possibility, and purpose. And I think that's such an important point, because to really get the most out of these next few days at this year's 10-year forecast, you need to be really conscious, really aware of, and attentive to your own mindset at any given moment of time, which is what I'm here to talk to you about. We've been thinking a lot about what it means to be a future-ready organization at IFTF. And we even created a whole playbook last year that lays out a lot of what we learned. But as we start to work together, there's one particular point I'd like to remind you all of. Future-ready organizations really think about time and scale in very different ways than other organizations. Here's what I mean. Most of you are familiar with the 3-time horizons model and the concept that each of the horizons represents a time period or overlapping waves of change that are sometimes used to describe the short, medium, and long-term future. And you also probably know that each of these horizons corresponds to a particular mindset: the management mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, and the visionary mindset. What we found in our research is that a future-ready organization is really strong in all 3 mindsets, and in particular, really good at moving between all 3. That is to say, they are really good at the temporal gymnastics required to work with the most speculative and visionary futures on Horizon 3 and draw connections to Horizon 1, where managers are concerned with more short-term implications. And they're able to identify opportunities for investment and innovation on Horizon 2 that are both inspired by Horizon 3 and pulls Horizon 1 forward and toward the future. And as we work together, this is what we'll be asking you to do in order to identify strategic insights that matter for different stakeholders within your organizations. I think we all feel like we sort of have a default mindset. We see ourselves as either managers, entrepreneurs, or visionaries, but rarely all 3. But we really believe that everyone has the ability to develop the dexterity of moving in and out of all 3 mindsets, to cultivate all 3 and be mindful about what you're paying attention to. So that's how future-ready organizations think about time differently than other organizations, but they also think about scale in a very different way as well. Future-ready organizations build readiness at different scales. They have the dexterity to face the future at the scale of operations, at the scale of the organization itself, and at the scale of systems, and the urgent future shaping the world outside of themselves. So as we all know, when you're thinking about the future at the scale of your organization, you're asking things like, how will the future impact how you're organized? What are the emerging practices and capacities you'll need to cultivate to thrive in the future? How will familiar business functions and processes need to evolve? And how does your organization reimagine itself in the new operational environment of the next decade? And when you think about the future at the scale of operations, you're thinking about the future of your portfolio of products, services, and experiences. This is the scale of your footprint in the market. Here you're asking how your market offerings evolve to respond to new expectations, new needs, and new definitions of value. So looking at future change and strategizing at the level of your organization and your operations are a crucial part of future readiness. But what's probably the biggest distinction, the thing that sets apart future-ready organizations of the highest order from the rest, is the way they look outside and beyond their own organizations. This is the scale of systems. Organizations can't prepare for the future without engaging in the urgent futures defining the world around them. From the climate crisis to the rise of disinformation, division, and waning trust, to the growing income and wealth inequality and need for belonging to sustain communities. A typical organization, if they see these as a futures issue at all, they see them as upcoming storms to weather or impending shocks they'd rather not think about. Or maybe they just see them as out of scope and say, those may be important, but that's not what we do. But a future-ready organization does more than just navigate the onslaught of change that is anticipated over the next decade. They challenge the idea that they cannot meaningfully address systemic issues, and they think about ways to seize this moment for transformation, to change for the better. So this brings us back to the point about mindsets. What are the mindsets you need for the next decade? We do need to cultivate an expanded sense of agency, possibility, and purpose. So organizations can achieve higher orders of readiness as they apply the temporal dexterity of thinking through implications of the future across different time horizons and across different scales of the organization. So as you participate in the experiences we've designed for you at this year's 10-year forecast, be deliberate about moving between mindsets and thinking about different orders of readiness for your organization. That is, think about different time horizons and scales. Keep in mind that no one can predict the future, but you can think systematically about it. Or as my colleague Jake Dunnigan said once, it's better to be blindsided by a simulation than by reality.